Welcome back to the Customer Success Festival APAC Reloaded. I hope you enjoyed the event so far. Again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all speakers, attendees, and partners. If you do like our content, please head over to customersuccesscollective.com and check out our membership plan. With the CSC membership, you'll be able to have full access to on-demand videos, templates, framework, exclusive articles, and also rewatch all the presentation videos of this event. Now it's time, sit back and enjoy the next session. Welcome everyone, and welcome back to the Customer Success Festival APAC Reloaded this time. I know it's noontime for Singapore people, and then it's afternoon for Australian, and maybe morning from India. So if you can join in and say hi in the chat, I'll be highly appreciated. Next up, we got the Customer Success Lead from Experian, Mr. Avnish himself, to talk about how to deliver positive customer ROI in a high-touch environment. How are you doing, sir, today?
Hey, Ryan. Doing all right. Been a long day of meetings, but hopefully I can share some good insights about how customer success works here at Experian for the audience today.
Awesome. The stage is all yours now. And then at the very end, we're going to also have a live Q&A session as well. So please feel free to post your comments, feedback, or questions here at the public chat. I'm sure Avi will be more than happy to answer those.
Absolutely. Well, I want to start by obviously thanking you, Ryan, for reaching out and giving me this opportunity to talk about the customer success story here at Experian that we've been on as a business. I'll probably start with a bit of an introduction about myself, who I am. As the title says, I help lead the customer success function here at Experian, not to be confused with Expedia, as it often happens. I've been in the business of data and insights for over 10 years now, helping connect customers, like get the insights out of the data, connect the dots on how it can be actioned, and really help our customers get ROI out of it. Been working in the customer success space for close to 5 years now. I would still call myself a student. It is a fairly new field for me as well. And I would say probably the most rewarding part of that journey so far has been what I've gone through here at Experian. In trying to set up this discipline in a large organization, and really all the fun and sometimes not so fun challenges that come with it. Probably talk a bit about Experian just to set the context for people here. Effectively, Experian is known to be a global information and analytics solution provider. We are most famously known to be a credit bureau. So anytime you apply for a mortgage or a loan, chances are that your credit history gets checked by the bank, and chances are that hits our credit services department. But where I sit in the business for a business is our marketing services arm, and I'll talk a bit about what we really do for our customers in a minute. But that's a bit about me. Before I get into the nitty-gritties of the details of that, just wanted to put a caveat out there up front. There'll be no chest thumping here today. There'll be no shouting out about how great we are. This really has been a journey of setting up customer success in a large traditional organization. Some lessons that we've learned that hopefully help the audience that you are here today to listen to, and maybe feedback from you guys on what we could do differently as well going forward. Always curious to hear more about what other people do and how we can learn from that. With that out of the way, I want to start with the context. So I spoke about sitting within the marketing services division at Experian. The product that we brought, or the solution that we provide to our customers, is a household segmentation view. Think of it as a geo-demographic solution. And the easiest example that I can give about that is if you go to any department store. Well, I live here in Australia and Sydney, so David Jones comes to mind. But if you go to Singapore, there's Robinsons, and similarly in other markets as well. You go out as a family. You're the male person in the family. You probably go to a different section of the department store. The mother in the family probably goes to a different floor. And if you have kids, they probably go into the different floors. We basically have the ability to provide a view of what that family composition looks like at a market level, and really help segment the population into those different groups and types, which helps you to be more targeted and personalized in the way you communicate with them. So if you don't have that view, you still can target. Nobody stops you from doing it. It's just that the marketing efficiency you get out of it and the ROI on the marketing dollars that you spend is probably not as efficient. So the more targeted you are, the better outcomes and the more efficient outcomes that you have. And listening to some of those terminologies that I've used here, it kind of gives you a clear indication of the kind of people that we work with or the businesses that we work with within our customer organizations. So it's marketing, analytics, CRM, and loyalty businesses. The good thing about this solution is it is actually vertical agnostic. So we actually do have the privilege of working across a number of different verticals, from financial services to retail, as I gave as an example, not-for-profit space, insurance. I can't think of a vertical that we probably don't work. Hospitality, travel, everywhere, because everyone wants to make sure that the marketing dollar that they spend on something, it's as efficient as possible. So that's the product, the solution that we put out into the market, and that's the value that our customers get out of it. Having said that, I wanted to start, but the next step I wanted to talk about was set the context again in terms of what a typical customer lifecycle looks like. Now, this is a stock standard image, nothing to do with Experian, something that I've seen used not just like in any typical customer lifecycle. Hopefully, everyone here on the call is familiar with this. You sign up on a new client, you go through an onboarding journey with them, you make sure that you set them up for success, you drive adoption, you keep monitoring their health by tracking how they're using your solution and your product, and you keep driving that and make sure that this leads to retention. And then through that journey, as you have new products and features that come out, you basically try and upsell and cross-sell those solutions into your customer base. So happy customer, happy business, and that's what a typical life cycle looks like. What this looked like at Experian 2 years ago was a little different. We had this journey mapped out similarly, but you see a few different color codes. And I'll talk about a bit in terms of what the color coding really means. None of it was really well embedded, really well developed in the organization. We had effectively sales owning that retention and the upsell and cross-sell part of the business. And some of the results that we had as a result of that, or the challenges that we had, was our retention rate was at about 70%. Now, that number itself doesn't mean anything, but think about the number of people that we were losing as a business, the number of customers on a quarter-by-quarter basis. But the bigger challenge there was even the renewals that were coming through were either coming through in month or they were coming in even a month after. Now, why this matters is if your sales group is managing this part of the business, it basically gives the leadership team and finance team and a number of teams a lot of anxiety because retention shouldn't be so hard. That should be the core part of the business that you're able to really bank on, that then helps you build new business growth engines. But because sales was owning this process, there was a lot of anxiety within the sales group. They were distracted. A lot of time was spent haggling with legal to make sure that the contracts are coming in time. And if they weren't, then getting those extensions in place. And it just was not leading to good outcome for the business overall. And the onboarding part of the process was being managed by consulting, which was doing a good job with it. So the good news there was our NPS wasn't necessarily in a bad place because we were delivering good data, and ultimately the product was good and customers still got value out of it. But it was a very delivery-focused environment in that context. And so you had sales taking care of the commercial elements, consulting taking care of just making sure that the initial data and the delivery happens. And so literally nobody was taking care of the customer effectively. So no one was thinking about that success planning. No one was thinking about the adoption. No one was thinking about how do you monitor the health of your customers. That piece was basically a gap in the business. And then some of the other challenges that kind of are unique to data as a service businesses. If you're a SaaS service provider, chances are that your solution is integrated into the client environment. It's probably a portal or a dashboard or a system that gets integrated. You're able to track usage against it. You're able to track number of users logging in, number of sessions, etc. And that really gives you a lead into how your client is interacting with you and your system. When you're working in a data as a service business, all of that goes out of the window. And that kind of leads into the point that I started with, which is what a high touch environment looks like. And I'll speak about that in a minute. But effectively, we had no way of tracking usage, because once we take that segmentation data, we basically give it to our customers, and then it goes beyond our four walls into the client territory, and then it basically sits with them. And what happened as a result of that is we really couldn't understand, because nobody was owning that piece around client account planning or adoption or health monitoring. We had no idea what value a client was getting out of that solution. So again, something unique to data as a service business, but also again in line with the context around how Experian was set up as a business a couple of years ago. So a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, as you can see. But fortunately, the business and the leadership team realized that these were problems that needed to be fixed, realized that there were challenges that they needed to work through. But effectively, what all this meant was our customer retention strategy, in a nutshell, was we send the contracts out, and then we pray that some of them sign, and we get the contracts back. Now, obviously, this is a bit theatrical. It doesn't mean that we had, if it was that leaky a bucket, a lot of people probably wouldn't have had jobs. But in many ways, that was the reality. And I remember when I first joined Experian, and when I had conversations with my boss and even his boss, this is the context that they provided, that you have no idea of the amount of anxiety that we feel in the business. And that is why we want to invest in customer success, because we believe that there is a definite role for customer success to play in driving a more nuanced and a better customer engagement strategy that gives comfort to the business, but also drives and delivers that value for our customers. But at this stage, it was basically send out the contract and pray that it gets signed and comes back on time. So there was realization that the strategy was not working. And as I alluded to, the leadership team realized that this needs to change. So where did we start with that change? So to start with that change, you need to start with a vision. You know what's not working, but that is not the best way to define what is working can look like. It helps feed into it, but you need to start with the vision. More importantly, you also need to start with focus. In large organizations where we sit, there's a number of different elements that you can work on and you can change, but you really need to know what is it that moves the needle and gets you the best outcome and the most immediate outcome. And so we looked at that wheel, and effectively what we realized was, if this is our current state, what should be the role of customer success in the way that we're trying to set it up now? And we realized that we cannot be everything, at least not on day one. There's no way we could suddenly say customer success now owns this entire wheel. It's going to take care of retention. It's going to take care of onboarding, client success planning, adoption, health monitoring. That is just not feasible. That is too big a risk to take. But that does not mean that we cannot chew at this pie piece by piece. And so that is where we realized that we know that sales is able to do some things. Let's leave that aside. We know that consulting is able to manage the client onboarding piece. Let's not look at that. What we decided was we will focus on two elements that we were sure we could drive immediate value on back to the business and also back to our customers. And that was around driving adoption and monitoring the health of our customers. And we chose these two areas based on this very deliberate conversation and discussion around what the strategy could look like. Like I said, we can't do everything. Like, if there are only two things we can focus on, what should they be? The two things that nobody's looking at currently in the business that helps deliver immediate value and that creates an immediate relevance for a customer success function to be set up. And that was around adoption and health monitoring. What we then did was, those are great focus areas to step into. But then how do you then define what does success look like if these are your focus areas? And we had to make sure that is measurable, because what cannot be measured, you cannot show progress on. So we decided that if you now go back to that high-touch environment that I spoke about, because we have no way of tracking usage, we realized the only way for us to know whether our client is using our data, whether they're getting the value out of it, was for us to be meeting them. And so we basically set out some core KPIs, which is, once we built the customer success team out, it was like, you have to have a QBR with every client throughout the year, at least 4 times a year. So that was a non-negotiable that got set as a core KPI. And then to make sure that we are able to track what that health looks like as part of these meetings, we kind of created something again that is stock standard in the industry. I know a number of customer success organizations use it. We created our own version of what is Iraq status. So it's red, amber, and green. And that was basically meant to track the usage of our data and our licenses within our client environment. But the only way for us to capture that information was by meeting every single one of our customers. Now, of course, there are challenges here. How do you scale that up, etc., which I'll talk to in a minute towards the end. But this is what we set out with, because we were not going to try and do everything. We were not going to try and do success planning. We were not going to try and go and do the commercial process around retention. And I'll show what that looks like in terms of what we chose not to do as well. But just meet our clients, understand their health, and through those meetings, ensure that our clients are adopting our solution and getting the value out of it, tracking the use cases of what that solution, what that value looks like, and then helping guide them towards what potential new use cases could also look like with the data that they get. And the progress measures that we set to track this was essentially, what does that forecasted retention rate look like 90 days out? And what percentage of renewals are we able to get signed off before the due date? I.e., how many days early are we able to get our renewals signed off? So again, just 2 key metrics to track progress and just 2 core KPIs. And so that was what we set out as focus areas with those core KPIs and tracking metrics. What is equally important for us to be clear on was what we do not own. And I kind of spoke about with that pie as well, but it was super clear for us to educate this to the business and to our customers as well, because in many ways we realized that by positioning ourselves as purely just being those people helping our clients, we actually open the doors more easily for us to be able to have those conversations with our customers as well. Like, we would introduce ourselves as being the people that are post-sales, helping the client realize value from our solution. And so they were very clear that any commercial negotiations, they had to go to sales. Any financial or legal implications, they had to go to sales. None of that was being owned by customer success, and it still isn't owned by customer success today. But this was very important for us to define as a differentiator for us, because if we get into that space, then we are basically overlapping with sales. And that kind of questions the value of customer success. And similarly, if we overlap, if we start picking up onboarding and delivery, that kind of then gets us to overlap with consulting and delivery, because they're doing that job already. So that is what we focus. So that was the focus. Those were the core KPIs and the core objectives that we decided to double down on. I see that there's a question here on the chat. Ryan, I'm not sure if you want to wait until the end of the presentation. I'm happy to pick it up right now.
Yeah, I think we can all go through the questions after your keynote.
Sure. Okay.
I think that might be easier. Yeah?
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of where we focus and where we don't. And then this is, again, like I said, this is a journey. I've been personally part of this journey since the beginning of 2020. And there have been definitely highs and lows. But what I've learned along the way, and some of the wins that we have had that I'm personally proud of, is our retention rate now consistently sits over an 85% mark. And 100% of our renewals come in 30 days early, which was no mean feat. And again, anyone who works in the business would know you're bound to have good months and bad months. When you're dealing with this, there are always months where it's just a bunch of customers who've just not seen value, and despite your best efforts, they decide to leave. Sometimes it's about them just not having budgets, a change in their strategy, takeovers, mergers. There are many things that are out of your control. But broadly speaking, we've been able to, but even identifying those elements has been a big win for us. And as my leadership team always likes to tell me, is in business, are we the best surprise is no surprise. So as long as you know that a client is not interested in renewing, and if we think that we've done everything we can to support them, then actually the best thing to do is let them go, and so that we can basically switch our focus to areas where we can control the relationship with the customer. But the other element that we have learned along the way is we spoke about meeting every one of our customers once a quarter. That was well-intentioned, I would say, and we definitely have benefited heaps from having that model. But we have learned that there are costs associated with that model as well in being able to engage every one of our customers. Sometimes not all of our customers want to meet us all of the time. what do you do in that scenario? So that's been a bit of a learning for us on this journey, and we're realizing that that's probably what we need to try and tackle in this next phase that I'll speak about in a minute. But scale is necessary in terms of how you engage with these customers. But as of today, we still do try and meet every one of our clients at least 4 times a year, and that's the model that we've been working on. So what's next? So we think that we kind of got that the core fundamentals that work for us. We kind of got that pretty well nailed. So meeting with the clients, being able to track the adoption, the use cases, and being able to understand what that risk looks like with the accounts. We kind of got that bedded down really well, and that is what we want to continue to focus on. In this next phase, what we want to then look at is how can we start driving some of this engagement at scale? As I alluded to before, it is something that we're conscious that it works, but it comes at a cost. But we don't want to change that necessarily wholesale. But is that a way for us to engage with the clients, not in a one-to-one setting, but a one-to-many setting? Because one of the other learnings we had over these past 2 years is anytime we run an event, every one of our clients actually want to hear from us. So the only thing that's actually stopping us from scaling this is ourselves. And how we can find those different avenues. Could it be roundtables? Could it be webinars? Obviously, COVID has had an impact on all of us. So the ability to bring people together like this in a virtual room is probably easier, but then it kind of sometimes misses the human element of putting people together in a room. So those are the conversations that we're having right now. And then we realize that we do need to create a more tiered model for customer success. Customer success should not be the same to every one of our accounts. It has to mean different to our large enterprise accounts versus what it means to some of our mid-tier and long-tail accounts. So we are looking at how we can scale that. But ultimately, that vision that we have set out for ourselves is how can customer success basically own that entire wheel around starting from the onboarding of a customer all the way through the adoption, the health monitoring, and the retention, and really trying to identify those opportunities around cross-sell and upsell that makes it a lot easier for the sales group to then go and execute on those opportunities. Right. So that was it from me. Conscious that was a whirlwind tour of close to 3-4 years of the customer success journey that we've been embarking on here at Experian. But hopefully that gives you a few ideas and thought starters on how you can replicate some of these learnings and lessons within your organization as well. I'm going to open that up to Q&A now, and I can see that a few questions that have already popped up.
Yeah, it's an awesome presentation. Thanks for doing this with us, Envy. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I can see some questions already from Deepak and Lydia. Let's start with the first one. If upsell and cross-sell is being driven by CSMs, how do you ensure that their role with customer does not get diluted, as pricing discussions does not build a trusted advisor relationship? Do correct him if he's wrong in his understanding, though.
Yeah, I think Deepak I think through that conversation, we kind of addressed that. So one of the roles that is very clear with customer success at Experian is we actually don't deal in commercial conversations. We have left that to sales. So anytime there's an opportunity that comes up, if it needs to be commercially scoped, if it needs to be priced out, we actually hand that over as an opportunity to sales. It is customer success identified, but it is actually worked on by sales. The way we look at that is the fact that we're identifying a new opportunity with the customer, that in itself shows that there is value in the core data set that we already supply, the core solution. And so it's actually a vindication of the work that we're doing. So if a client wants to do more business with us, they obviously want to retain with us and continue working with us. So that kind of is the model that we use to work right now. I think there's a question from, hopefully that answers the question for Deepak though.
Yep, I think he also got a follow-up question. Sorry, Lydia, we're going to get back to you later from Deepak as well. So how early do your CSM start the renewal discussion with the client?
Thank you. That actually could be a topic in and of itself to talk about, Deepak, which is one of the reasons why renewals were signing so late was because how late the conversation started. So the metric that we have right now is we actually have a renewal conversation with the clients 90-day out. So before 90 days of the contract termination, and we actually then send out the contract to the client as well. So we upfront tell the client we have no auto renew clauses in our contracts. I can be upfront about that. So we actually start the conversation 90 days out. And that in many ways is what has helped us fix that problem with delayed or like last minute gasps in getting those contracts signed off.
Great. Actually, Lydia and Deepak also put up something really similar. I'm going to start with Lydia first. So what are your top tips for when dealing with a frustrated customer?
This is a tricky one because I don't think there is a. I mean, I would like to say that there's a playbook. At the end of the day, when there's a frustrated customer, the best thing you can do is actually just shut up and listen to them. Why are they frustrated? Just talk to them as people, but really listen. Oftentimes a frustrated customer is actually far better than a silent customer, in my opinion, because
I
a
agree.
frustrated customer actually wants to listen, wants to talk to you, talk to you about the problems they have, which means they're giving you an opportunity to actually work on it and make your product and solution work better for them. A silent customer is what scares me, because if a customer stops talking to you, it probably means that they've already made up their mind on not working with you. I don't know if that answers your question, Lydia, but that's at least how we approach it. Anytime a customer is frustrated, I actually say that's great. It means we have an opportunity to improve our product, our service, a solution. There's something that's broken that we can fix, and the client wants us to fix it. Let's go do that.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. Thank you, Lydia. We got some more questions coming up. So from Deepak again, do you also predict the churn ARR based on CSM's interpretations of their portfolio? Do you measure actual churn versus predicted churn?
Awesome. So I think if I understand the question correctly, the RAG status that I spoke about, we kind of actually has become a common currency for us internally, but there's a different interpretation of that RAG, i.e. red, amber, green, within the customer success forum, and a different interpretation of that within the sales cycle. So if you think about the 12-month journey, and our solutions are 12 months, not monthly, probably that makes a difference. I know there are some solutions that are on a monthly basis. Customer success basically, so consulting starts with a delivery lag. So when a new client is onboarded, when they exit delivery, where do they sit on the red, amber, green? And they have a way of defining it. So we know already whether the client was happy when they finished onboarding. Then customer success basically picks up on the journey and basically tries to manage that conversation and sees if there are issues, how can we fix it? And then we track basically usage and adoption of the solution. And that is that usage RAG that we then monitor. And that also gives us a view of whether the client is going to renew or not renew at the end of the contract cycle. And then when I mentioned that 90 days out, when we put the renewal out, we actually, when we pass that to the sales to say, now let's go and have the commercial discussion with them on renewal, that's where sales knows from delivery all the way through the adoption cycle where the customer status is. And so they know the likelihood or not likelihood of the client to renew. And then all they have to do is on Salesforce manage the forecast, whether it should be upside, forecast, or pipeline, which tells them what to work on effectively. But we know much before, like we probably know, I can't say for like hand to heart, I can't say that every one of our customers we know this, but for every one of our major accounts and mid-tier accounts, we have this very clear view of where the risk lies, which are the opportunities that we need to work on, and what we need to work on. So that is how we track potential for churn, and then sales basically then is able to predict what they will lose at the end of that life cycle. Not sure if that answered your question, but that is how we currently track potential for churn in the business.
Thank you. And again, we got questions from Samantha. Do non-renewals not require renegotiation of the commercial terms or upsell opportunities? In those cases, do you pass back to the sales team member? I'm also curious how this works.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So in most cases, if the original solution is fit for purpose, that's our job to make sure that the way we look at that is, and again, this is maybe unique to a data as a service business, but I'm not like, again, maybe SaaS providers might have a different perspective. Data has a point in time reference use case. So you have to constantly keep finding new use cases for the data and the insights that comes off it that you need to keep educating your customers on. So at the renewal time, the conversation with the CSM has with the client is, hey, this is the body of work that you were able to work on using this data in this past year. What are your strategic priorities for the next financial year? This data can actually play a role in that for the next 12 months as well. So the renewal should be a no-brainer. So you should renew. Now, if there are additional requirements on, you know what, this data set is great, but I probably want another view, that is when that conversation gets passed on to the salesperson. But that can happen anytime through the year. It just doesn't have to happen at the time of renewal. Sometimes it just aligns nicely at the renewal time, and then the salesperson is able to pick that up. What is important to remember is it sounds like these are silos, but internally we actually do have working groups. So there would be a consultant, a customer success, and there's an assigned account manager, and we do keep each other in the loop of what's actually going on with the account. If that doesn't happen, then this process will actually break. So that is that element of collaboration that is intrinsic to make this process work. Otherwise, there are points of break failures here that, as Samantha, you're asking rightly, that can happen. But we are able to pass that information and that knowledge to the AM continuously through the process. And so when we pass it back to the sales group, they know what they're working with.
Thanks again. That's a great answer. Also, we got Deepshika. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. So what do you think is a good time to start the renewal discussions with a pilot customer who is only here for, like, let's say 3 months? What do you think?
I mean, we actually have our version of that as well, and we call them project-based customers. So they come to us with a point-in-time problem that can be solved with our insights, and they may not want a license extension on it, and they say, "I'm not ready for it yet." But this is probably more commercial territory rather than customer success territory, at least in expedient domain. But the way we try and approach that is, unless budget is a constraint, I would say that the only thing that holds a customer back is value at the end of the POC. So the best way to actually mitigate that is agree on what the value is that the client is looking to achieve through this POC. And so I would say that it's possible for you to put it in the commercials that if that value is achieved, you should automatically renew for a 12-month extension. But if that value is not achieved, you can walk away. It's just an opt-out exit clause in there. So again, like I said, that depends though on the budget and also the long-term perspective that the customer has as well. If they are only looking for a point-in-time solution, then that won't work. But in any other case, like agreeing to the value of what you want at the end of the POC upfront is the best way to ensure you're able to push them further beyond the 3-month cycle.
Thank you. We got so many questions. We got one more for you. I hope you don't mind, Avi. Someone go Fifi here. So if customers have unrealistic ROI goals for your product or services, what are some of the ways to steer them back into the right direction, or audience management or expectation management?
Actually, a great question. And in our line of business, that happens so frequently that I don't even know where to start with this, because the way we describe a product solution is, think of it as bricks. Now, you can use the bricks to make a single-story house, or you can use the same bricks to build Buckingham Palace. So it really is that chalk and cheese. And so the way we manage client expectations on ROI goals from our perspective is, and that is where that value piece I spoke about is so challenging in our line of businesses. We talk about the possibilities, but we also are very transparent with our clients on what our data can and cannot do. We never try and say that you actually can go out and get, like if you're running a marketing campaign, for example, and you're trying to do a performance marketing metrics analysis, and you're saying, I wanted an 8x ROAS. We would never say that our data in and of itself will help you get there directly. It has to work in conjunction with your own data sources and the other sources that you have as well. But we will be able to help contribute to that. What we can help do is give you uplift. And so we are very transparent in these conversations. So my answer to that would be, you have to be transparent with your customers, because the first question I ask is, who's setting those unrealistic ROI goals? If it almost feels like, and I don't want to do this, but it almost sounds like that's a sales problem of when the original solution was sold in. If those unrealistic ROI expectations have been set up upfront, then of course you're going to have that problem. But that is again why during that onboarding phase, you have got to catch that right up front and reset those expectations with the client. I cannot imagine a world where you set those expectations and then they don't meet, and then you expect a client to renew. That's not going to happen.
Awesome. Thanks for answering. I think I really agree with what Sasha put up here. Love the Q&A in this session. Thanks for all the insights, and we obviously with your presentation as well. We are almost here, so I would like to call this off. That's all right for everyone. Thank you again, Amy, for joining us and then delivering such great content. I hope to see you all in the rest of our events.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ryan, and yeah, hopefully the audience found this useful. Cheers, guys.
Obviously.
Good morning,
Cheers,
good
everyone.
afternoon, good evening.
Obviously, yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'll see you in the next session. See you all. Take care. Bye-bye.